Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. Well, more grim news for BC Forestry. West Fraser has announced it plans to shut down its mill at 100 Mile House, cutting 165 jobs. The company blames supply, lower demand, and U.S. tariffs. The mayor says it is a blow to the local economy. We'll speak with the MLA for Caribou-Chilcotin, and we'll take your reaction on the open line. And Brian Minter will be here with tips to deal with those grubs burrowing into your lawns. And of course, he'll take your gardening questions. I'm Michelle Elliott. Welcome to BC Today. We start with more trouble for BC's forestry sector. While, as you heard in the news, StatsCan jobs numbers show a dip in unemployment nationally for the month of October, in BC, some bad news there. Approximately 165 people's jobs in the Caribou hang in the balance. And this as West Fraser announced a permanent shutdown of its mill at 100 Mile House. The district's mayor, Maureen Pinckney, says the closure's permanence came as a surprise, and it could also risk losing young people in the community.
You know, it impacts the younger families the most. There'll be some senior workers there that will decide, okay, now's the time to retire. They'll be okay. But the younger families, they'll probably have to move away and find different work. And that is really, really hard on us trying to keep young people here. You know, it's a beautiful, affordable place to live, and it's a shame if this is what takes people out of the community. The government will assist in some of this, but this is not the first time we've had a mill closure. So the District 100 Mile actually has a very good guide that they put together from the last mill closure. It's called A Path Forward, and it really will help the workers themselves on things that they may not ever have had to go through before. As well, the mill themselves will assist their workers in transitions and relocating some of them, things like that.
The other mill slated to close by the end of the year is in Augusta, Georgia. The company says in a statement that this is because of timber supply challenges, but that also higher duties and additional tariffs have compounded the situation. We'd like to hear from you now. What is your reaction to the latest job losses in forestry? What do you think of the state of the industry right now? You can call us. Just hit pound 690 on your cell phone or dial 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. That's 604-669-3733. You can also email bctoday@cbc.ca or leave a comment on our TikTok Live. Joining me now is Lorne Doerkson, the BC Conservative MLA for the Caribou-Chilcotin. Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for the opportunity to have this conversation.
The mayor of 100 Mile House said she only learned of this yesterday at around this time. What discussions have you been having in the last 24 hours?
Yeah, so I learned about it at the same time as well, and certainly the comments that I just heard Mayor Pinckney make certainly resonate with me, and I agree with I agree 100% with her comments. It's a devastating blow to the South Caribou, frankly, not just 100 Mile, but so many other sort of communities that, you know, obviously have a connection to a mill this size, right? I mean, we talked about 165 employees that will ultimately lose their positions at the mill. But there's so many other people that, you know, have a stake in this, whether they're supplying, you know, the mill directly or whether they're supplying, you know, logging contractors that supply the mill. You know, there is a real serious effect that will be felt throughout the entire South Caribou on this.
And the company, West Fraser Timber, says they will look at opportunities in other areas of its operations for some of those people who will be affected. Do you know any specifics of that at this point?
Yeah, I don't know any specifics. I did talk to West Fraser on that topic for sure, and of course they're going to try to do that. But I think this is an industry that's been plagued for a number of years with a number of different challenges, and I'm deeply concerned that that's going to be a huge issue. You know, noting that there's been a number of other closures throughout northern British Columbia over the last year or two. And so I think that that's going to be pretty challenging for employees to simply just pick up and move to another mine, or
What
sorry, mill.
Another mill. What is the broader impact? You said this does go beyond mill workers. It's the suppliers as well, and any other industry attached, right? So can you paint me a picture of the broader impact on the local economy in the Cariboo?
Yeah, I think the notion that, there's a multiplier of often three is used to this. And I would suggest that, when you think about the impact to the local business community, which of course is very supported by this industry, and certainly anyone else. I know I've had a number of attachments to small businesses, and none of them have not been in some way supported by this industry. If you look at Cariboo Chilcotin as a whole, we've got a mill in Savona, we've got, of course, we had West Fraser and 100 Mile, we've got 8 different milling operations in Williams Lake. So it's really difficult to, not be able to attach, the business community as a whole to this community, right? And it's other things too, right? I mean, obviously, you look around our communities and you can see the connection that certainly the industry has had to our communities in different ways, whether it be through food banks and other things that they've obviously supported and hopefully obviously are able to continue to support. So this is a very significant blow to the South Cariboo.
Of course, tariffs and duties are part of this, but you talked about the problems that the industry has faced over the years, right? So, and there has been criticism from the Council of Forest Industries when it comes to the amount of red tape, permitting gridlock, permitting systems there. I mean, what do you think are the issues faced by the industry right now?
Yeah, my frustration there is that these things are not new. Look, I'm not saying that tariffs aren't significant and certainly part of the cause, but there's a cumulative effect of other things that have been happening in this industry. And the permitting situation in this province has been a crisis. I mean, I've been an MLA for 5 years. I've been talking about the permitting crisis for all 5 years. And, that continues to plague us. And that is something that the government could absolutely solve. But for whatever reason, we can't seem to get past the bureaucracy that is plaguing not just this industry, but industry in the province. And so that is very frustrating. I know that, obviously there's been other challenges that we've seen, pine beetle and forest fires. These are having significant effects on our landscape. We just had, in the West Chilcotin, probably nearly 100,000 hectares burn, through multiple fires over, probably just a month or so ago or 2 months ago. So, this is another challenge on our landscape. I know that we're using fire as a bit of a tool, and I can appreciate its value, but the reality is we have to stop fires in this province. We are burning our resource at an alarming rate in this province, and I'm very concerned about that. The other thing is too, and I have spoke about it in the legislature many times, I think there is some agreement across party lines that we have to make use of everything on our landscape. We're using great programs like Fest BC, to help support the use of things that are a little bit further afoot. And, right now there's a lot of confusion on our landscape. We're burning coal piles that are in my estimation could be of a value to something. The power plant, the pellet plant, for crying out loud, let's use it in our own wood stoves, But at this point, we're burning a lot of fiber that has been deemed by the province to be waste. And so, I appreciate that there's a lot of complexity here, but there are, in my estimation, a lot of things that this province could be doing.
The industry itself has faced criticism as well for not having modernized, right? Logging much of the primary forest, focusing on lumber, and then having to move operations to the United States when that runs out. So what do the companies themselves, like West Fraser need to do to pivot and add more value-added production?
Well, I think, I can appreciate that comment, but I think that these mills have modernized in many different ways because, I mean, we've actually seen shortages of, chips and that kind of thing coming out of these mills to things like the power plant, right? Because they are more effective and more efficient. And I think a lot of these mills, are leaders, with respect to their capacity to mill a log very efficiently and very effectively. So I can appreciate that there are things that could always be done better, but frankly, I think that a lot of these mills are pretty top of the line.
One last question before we say goodbye, Mr. Doerkson. There's been a lot of talk on our show. We've been getting calls from people saying, "What about increased use of community forests?" The BC Timber Sales Review included a recommendation to expand 3 community forests in Vanderhoof, Fraser Lake, and Fort St. James. Do you see an increasing role for them?
I think there's an increasing role for many things on our landscape, and community forests are definitely one of them, right? I mean, we've got some incredible partnerships in Cariboo-Chilcotin between First Nations and these companies. And, as I said before, I think that there's so many things that we could be doing better, and I think that's certainly one of them as well.
Good to have you on the show. Thank you for your time.
I appreciate your interest in our community.
Lorne Doerkson is the BC Conservative MLA for the Cariboo-Chilcotin. We are taking your calls on this. Your reaction as West Fraser has announced the permanent closure to come by the end of the year at its mill at 100 Mile House. And as you heard there, the MLA for Cariboo-Chilcotin saying it is devastating. What's your reaction? And what do you think of the state of the industry right now? 604-669-3733, 1-800-825-5950. Colin is waiting in Williams Lake. Hi, Colin. Thanks for calling us.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much. How are you?
I am just fine. I know you're on your lunch break, so thanks for your patience. What do you want to say about forestry?
I'll be quick. I'm 60 years old, a Canadian, born and raised in British Columbia. I've been going into the bush with my dad as a young man or a young boy of 5 years old, and I've been continuously in the bush, including tree planting. I planted hundreds of thousands of trees back in the 80s. But years ago, when I first got my license, I used to be able to drive into the wilderness, and I would drive 45 minutes before I ran into a clear cut. Now I go into the wilderness, I drive for 45 minutes to find an old growth stand of trees. There aren't any left. Our technology has pushed us we're wiping out our forests at a dramatic rate. If you look at Google Earth, that gives a person a good idea. I have gold claims up in Quesnel area back in Barkerville. It's a caribou wildlife habitat area, and yet 50% of everything that I can see from my camp has been logged. We have to slow down. We have to find alternative jobs for the people. We've been concentrating on forestry for decades. I've been hearing this all my life. It's time we find new employment for these people, and I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much for calling us on your lunch break in Williams Lake. We actually have an email that starts off with a similar point from Dave in Kimberley. I think anyone who has access to a computer and Google Earth will be able to see that the lack of available fiber is just code for, oops, we just cut too much too quickly. Forestry has the potential to be the best, most sustainable industry in BC, but the way it is mismanaged, we have just left ourselves in a position where there is no accessible, high-quality fiber left within hours of our mills. This will, of course, regrow if left, but what we are seeing in the Kootenays is local lumber giants going back and cutting smaller and smaller plantations after 50 and 60 years, trees that were supposed to be left for 80 to 100 years to regenerate into some more valuable fiber. Long winters and dry summers here really impact forest growth, and wildfires are resetting plantations back to young forests at a rapid rate. It seems like there's a bit of a desperate rush just to keep jobs until mills can close and the companies relocate to somewhere with faster growing timber. Dave, thank you for your email from Kimberly. bctoday@cbc.ca is our address. And Brian is calling us now in Surrey. Hi, Brian. What's your reaction to this mill closure at 100 Mile House and the state of the industry?
Yeah, hi. I'm kind of dismayed that, yet another lumber mill goes under. I think there's some politics involved in that, some political reasons, obviously tariff reasons. I just want to point out that there's an industry very active in Canada, particularly BC, Ontario, Quebec, which is called the mass timber industry. This is where we build buildings, offices, residential, institutional. We build all kinds of structures where we use wood in sort of a larger way. And we use the very wood that mill makes, namely lumber, 2 by 4, 6, 8, 10, 12.
Mm-hmm.
And what's happening is that we're just in this habit of trying to ship everything south, produce these 2 by 4, et cetera, sticks, try to ship it south, but we have to sell at a loss. Otherwise, no one will sell because of the tariffs. No one will buy it. And then we shut down and move to the States. Well, that doesn't work very well. What we do is we buy millions of board feet of lumber and incorporate them into our architectural exposed timber structures, sometimes known as mass timber structures, where we use a lot of lumber to create beautiful, efficient structures using
This is your
sustainable
company.
wood that grows on trees.
You run this company?
And pardon me?
You're talking about you have a company doing this?
The company I work for.
Mm-hmm.
The company I work for, I've worked in the sector for 25 years.
Mm.
And, but what we need is more customers. So we can divert that wood from trying to sell at a very low price down south. We can divert it, use it in Canada,
Mm-hmm.
in buildings. But often the issue is that we don't have enough customers. What needs to happen, I think, is that as part of a national project, all levels of government have to incorporate mass timber into everything we build.
And I've heard that, right? Because we have obviously this, Build Canada Homes project and that focus on boosting the economy as well as domesticating the market for forestry. I mean, do you see that playing a role then?
Yes, and again, I'm not down on lightwood frame, which uses lumber and plywood, that we build all our houses out of, and townhouses and 6-story apartments. That's a really good use of wood as well. I'm talking about bigger buildings, taller buildings. We can build up to 18 stories in mass timber and use a tremendous amount of Canadian lumber. And also it's exposed to view. That's one of the beautiful things about mass timber is it's visible. It's not covered. And this is a huge opportunity we have, but we don't seem to be taking it. And I do realize it'll take, incentives and subsidies from governments, all levels of government, to instead of building in concrete and steel, we build in wood. But the difference is that we can use our own wood in our own buildings right here in Canada. We have the engineering capacity and the manufacturing capacity. We're experts in this.
Good to hear.
We can do a lot more.
It's a really interesting example. Thanks very much for sharing the work that you do. And another example of innovation there and how that could be used within Canada as well. Thank you very much for your call from Surrey, Brian. Our number again is 604-669-3733, 604-669-3733. Your reaction to another mill closure. This time, West Fraser has announced it plans to permanently shutter its mill in 100 Mile House. And so it's blaming, yes, the tariffs and the duties, but also lower timber supply. So taking your calls on that. We have another email from Kamloops. Patricia writes, we need to recognize that we are experiencing the fall down in timber supply in BC. This has been predicted for decades. Yes, the tariffs are a factor, but so much of the forest has already been cut down. Thank you. BC Today at cbc.ca is our address. And Yen is calling us now on the phone from Vancouver. Hi, Yen. Your reaction to this mill closure?
Thanks. Thanks for having me. I'm very concerned about the impact on forestry jobs, and I'm extremely concerned about the state of the forest, like other callers and people have already said. We have cut too much for too long. I've seen the region around 100 Mile House, and there is a heavy impact on the landscape. So I think it's important to understand that we need a pause in logging in many parts of the province. And I believe there's an opportunity in this moment to use some of the government funding to respond to the tariffs and help forestry workers, finding jobs in restoring some ecological integrity in these degraded landscapes. So we have a combination of industrial impacts and climate change impacts. We have young plantation forests. We need people skills who can
Yen?
bring some light back into the forest.
Thank you very much, Jen. I'm going to jump in here. Thank you for your point there. A pause in logging and some funding for workers who'll be affected in the interim. I just wanted to jump in because we do have a caller from near 100 Mile House joining us right now. Peter, thanks very much for joining us. And what are your thoughts, your reaction?
Hi there. How are you going to? I wanted to touch on the point of, this has happened with other logging companies or forestry companies in the province whereby they shut down a mill, but they continue to log, and either they ship in raw logs or they're pelletizing it and shipping it out of the province. And the amount of jobs go way down. I think what should happen, and I think the province should take the point on this, is if a company is going to shut down a sawmill that's employing, I'm not sure what 100 Mile employs, probably a couple hundred people, the mill in 100 Mile.
165.
Pardon me?
165 people will be affected.
165, so I wasn't far off.
No.
I think that it should be tied. If they are not going to turn that into lumber in the province, then they shouldn't be allowed to continue cutting in the forest.
Okay. We will follow up on that in terms of what the plans might be for any further logging activity without employing the people in the community, Peter. Thank you very much. That's Peter joining us from 100 Mile House. And we have another email here as well from Jim, who writes, I totally agree with your first caller. There is very little mature forest left between logging and wildfire. There's very little high-quality habitat left for ungulates and other wildlife species. The mismanagement of the land base is dreadful. Jim, thank you. BC Today at cbc.ca. It is now just about 12:28. Well, we told you yesterday about this ranking put out by a Vancouver group called Vision Zero, and they ranked the worst intersections in Metro Vancouver. And in this bracket, people voted Main and 7th in Vancouver as the worst. We asked for your experiences at intersections, and Minor writes, Kingsway is too fast. Cars speed on it. Seniors have trouble crossing in time. And out in Coquitlam, you have to hurry little kids across 6 lanes of terrible traffic. Jen wrote about the scramble crossing that people brought up on the show. And she writes, your last caller mentioned shutting down the whole intersection for pedestrians and cyclists who are increasing in number in Vancouver. I think that would be the most inexpensive way to deal with it and would relieve the stress of motorists driving through, especially in rush hour. For other intersections, perhaps they can create traffic circles. And specifically, pedestrians are always a problem, as when I'm pulling through an intersection at a stop sign, I'm always looking left for oncoming traffic. And when I get a break, I pull out and turn to the right, only to see that pedestrians are crossing the road to my right. As a pedestrian, I wait to see if the driver sees me. And Ruthie writes, my beef is drivers who speed through crosswalks near parks are well signed, even with flashing lights. They should be looking for pedestrians and be prepared to stop instead of speeding through. I regularly throw up my arms in frustration. I just walk out and almost stop to make sure they slow down instead of waiting for them to speed by and not bother to stop. Now, thank you so much. Got a lot of emails on that. You can always send us your thoughts on anything you hear on the show, BC Today at cbc.ca. It's 12:30 now. You're with BC Today. I'm Michelle Elliott. Thanks for joining us. And Brian Minter will take your gardening questions coming up. Right now, it is time for a CBC News Update. And here's Tarnjit Parmar.
Good afternoon. The RCMP says officers will remain at Universal Ostrich Farms in Edgewood following the cull of hundreds of birds. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency has confirmed professional marksmen were used to depopulate the farm. A cull order was issued after avian flu was found on that property last year. Mission RCMP say that a woman has died in a house fire. Several others have been displaced because of that fire, which happened early yesterday morning. First responders say they were called by a neighbor on Shaw Street at around 1:45 a.m. When they arrived, the house was fully engulfed in flames and a man was sent to hospital for smoke inhalation. The cause of that fire is still under investigation. And members of the BC General Employees Union have started to vote on a tentative agreement reached with the province. Voting started yesterday online and will continue until Thursday. The union says the results will then be shared publicly. The 8-week-long strike saw thousands of public service workers take job action. The tentative agreement includes a 3% general wage increase per year over the next 4 years. Those are your news headlines. For more information, you can go to the website cbc.ca/BC.
Taranjeet, thank you very much. I don't know if you saw the Grammy nominations are out.
I didn't see that.
Some big
But
names.
I heard someone local was nominated.
Oh, really? Okay, I did hear
that's
that.
what I heard.
Yeah, okay. Some Canadians are up, and we're going to get into that in a little bit. So I know you're a music fan, so you better go check to see if your favorites are on there.
I will do that right now.
All right, that's Taranjeet Farmore in the CBC Vancouver newsroom. Yes, some Canadians are up for major hardware at next year's awards. Oh, I love that song. That is a snippet of Lady Gaga's Abracadabra, nominated this year for Song of the Year. It was produced by Halifax-born Circuit, also known as Henry Walter. He's a songwriter-producer. Now, he is up for 7 awards in all, including Album of the Year for Lady Gaga's Mayhem. He's also worked with another favorite of mine, Bruno Mars. Oh, yes, this is all filled with my faves. Also nominated, a Canadian singer you may have heard of, Justin Bieber. He's up for the Album of the Year for Swag. And leading the pack, though, is American rapper Kendrick Lamar with 9 nominations, including that fabulous collab with SZA, Luther, which has a shout out to one of the best R&B singers of all time, Luther Vandross. Looking forward to the awards next year for sure. We do know Brian Minter as our own gardening magician, and he's here now with his own gardening advice and, of course, to take your questions as well. So you can call us now, 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733, or just hit pound 690 on your cell phone. You can send your question by email to bctoday@cbc.ca, or you can leave a comment on our TikTok Live. And Brian joins me now from Country Garden Limited in Chilliwack. Hello, Brian. Nice to see you.
Hey, Michelle. We talked this morning early about we're getting so many storms. It's a stormy season right now for the next little while.
Oh, windy and all of that.
It does, but it doesn't take too long for that to turn around and come back in from the northeast. And in the Fraser Valley, of course, those famous outflow winds are the ones that we always worry about. And, just in terms of most nurseries getting plants in a protected area for the wintertime, they've always used early November as kind of a key time because if you do that, you're going to be okay because there's so much in so many nurseries to get protected. You'll just never be able to do it in time if you leave it too much later. So I'm just going to translate that into our home gardens right across the province because, taking it easy and not thinking about it, not a good plan for your garden, especially some of your wonderful plants that you want to keep. So I would say right now is a good time to, a nice weekend coming up to be able to do that. But there's several things that I really wanted to point out about just because of the losses we've had in the past few years. Number one, the roses, our rose plants are really beautiful, spectacular. Many of them still in bloom right now. Leaves are still on. Don't take it easy. You need to get some mulch, bark mulch preferably, sawdust if you have that. Fir is always the best, but get at least a foot of it around the bud unions on your plant. Now, we'll say that many of the new roses today are on their own roots. They are hardier, especially what they're called shrub roses. Not as big a concern, but you need to take all the traditional roses with the bud unions, a foot of mulch over the top so you won't lose them no matter what happens in wintertime. And the other problem is a lot of folks say, well, I have a tree rose. Is that going to work? It's not going to work. Because the tree roses are basically 3 or 4 feet into the air. And guess where the bud union is? Right at the very top. So you need to take about a 4-foot piece of fencing that'll hold leaves or so on and put the fencing right around the standard rows so that, in fact, you can fill it full of leaves, you can fill it full of sawdust and bark, that the top bud union is protected. People forget about that, and we don't want you to lose that. That's really quite important. Another little tag here, your dahlias are in the garden, and many of them still blooming, amazingly, and your beautiful canna lilies. These are the ones we leave until November. Okay, folks, it's November. We need to dig the dahlias and the canna lilies now. Get them inside, and please don't wash them. Just get them dried out. That's the most important thing. Cut the leaves off on both of them. So it's the roots and tubers that we want to protect. And all they need to be is a place where they can dry out and be protected from a heavy frost. Some people, especially in the autumn, like to leave them in. I would never recommend that. It's better to get them in a protected area so you don't lose them. That's very important. Our containers that we have, many of our containers that we want to use for fall and winter color and so on, maybe get some protective cloth. We always talk about insulate as being a really good one to wrap them. It makes a 10 degrees Celsius difference, or depending on the one you use, but that'll protect them and get them out of the wind if we start getting those outflow winds. Another one is figs. Oh my gosh, a few years ago, we lost so many of the figs that people count on. Remember, figs are zone 7. Most of the valley is zone 6 until you get into Vancouver and South Surrey. And so mulch around the bottom, because if you've had an established fig, and you've got lots of mulch around the bottom, the worst case scenario, if the tops get killed off, that the bottoms will come up again. And in the whole season, you'll probably be able to get a few figs for next year. So I worry about the figs. That's very, very important. And a lot of our tender perennials, like wherever zone you're in, if you always plant that's not as hardy, but we want to be able to have that. And I would thinking bay trees in terms of particularly some of the rosemary and so on, mulch around them, putting them in a protected spot. That is really, really important to be able to get that done and as soon as you possibly can. And I would say all the tender plants you have around your home. We look at camellias, especially the beautiful sasanquas that are blooming right now. If they're in a windy area, make sure they've got a little protection when we get that real cold weather. They're going to be fine. And just traditional things. A lot of us, we're enjoying our patio pots right now. We've got Dracaenas in there, which are fine. So maybe some geraniums still looking pretty good. Maybe some fuchsias, which are okay out there. That's time. Now, let's not take a chance on losing them, because if we can just move them in to a spot where it's protected, we're going to be fine. These are just housekeeping issues for winterizing your garden and your plants, and it doesn't take a long time, but being ready for it. So if we get that sudden outflow and you're away or not able to do it quickly, you're all set for winter. And to me, that is really important. And Michelle, one other thing that I really have to mention here is our lawns, essentially many places all through the lower mainland right now. The grubs are in the soil, and they're hatching early, and you're seeing lawns being destroyed everywhere. There's a very simple control for that. And that is the insects are not destroying everything. It's the predators like the raccoons and the squirrels and crows in particular, digging up the area, messing your lawn up. Just go and get some poultry wire or the cheapest wire you can find, pin it down on your lawn, and because we're pretty much through the mowing time right now, and leave it. Your lawn will be absolutely fine because the predators can't get in to dig up your lawn, and your lawn will it'll save you hundreds of dollars in repair and maintenance and so on. Please get that protective netting down now, and it will make all the difference and save you a lot of money.
Yeah, it's the grubs that get the bad rap.
Mm-hmm.
But
That's right. It is. Yeah.
Don't blame the grubs.
That's right.
Let's get some calls to Brian now. Brian Minter, of course, our gardening columnist here on BC Today, and taking your questions for him. 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. And Mary is calling from Nelson. Hi, Mary. Go ahead with your question for Brian Minter.
Hi there. Thank you.
Sure.
Brian, my husband would like to know if it is too late to put a garden crop cover in and what you would recommend. And if I have time, I saved trailing begonia. I was told that you could save them, or the tubers, but I'm not really sure what to do with them. Thank you.
Yeah, Mary, a good question. Essentially, it is getting very late, but if you can get some, the new, I guess, idea for all of us in terms of looking after our soils is never, ever leave them bare. Even to get some straw and put over, make sure that when you get the straw that doesn't have seeds in it, but straw or something over your soil is critical right now. Even manures, that type of thing, that would work as well. But you can still sneak it in. Germination usually takes about 10 days. I don't like fall rye in the sense of it's too hard to work under when you want to get your garden going in the spring. Buckwheat is one I love because buckwheat will die down, and then you're ready to start your garden right away. And in terms of looking after, we're talking soils being very, very important, and still trying to get it in. I think we'll always sneak that chance because it's really, really very hardy and no problem at all there. So you can get away with that. And the other, Mary, the other question was on the
begonia, I believe.
The begonia, yeah. And this is really important. It's a great question. Take cuttings off the tips of this time of year. That's your best way to start new plants. They'll root very easily, probably within about 10 days by putting them in a peat and peaty type of soil. That's one thing. But if you want to save the tubers, and the tubers will be very small. Unless you started them with tubers, all the seed varieties will be very, very tiny tubers. So I would take cuttings instead. But yes, the begonias should be in. Cut them off at the ground, lift them, let them dry out. They need to be able at 15 degrees Celsius in terms of warmth, but no, definitely save them by cuttings or by the tuber, and I think cuttings would be better for you.
Aha, there you go. Yeah, just what you were talking about too, Mary. Thank you very much for the call from Nelson. Oh, we're staying in Nelson now, and our next caller is Michelle. Welcome, Michelle.
Oh, thank you. Good afternoon, Brian. Hello.
Hi.
Brian,
Hi,
I have a pear tree in our yard. I think it's at least 50 years old, and it has been diagnosed with rust. And I've had it on the leaves for years, and it's really hard crustacean-looking growths. And I'm told it's bacteria, and also that there's no product on the market that I can use if I wanted to eat the fruit. And I'm wondering if you can give me any information about that.
Yeah, first of all, you can control it. It's been a real problem. It's called, usually it's a pear trellis rust that we're talking about. But, garden sulfur is still available, and sulfur is a control for rust. Sometimes, though, the tree gets too big and it's too hard to even deal with it. I would consider, if you want to keep this tree, it's only 50 years. That's not, lifespan. They'll go 80 to 100 years. So I would carefully get someone who knows what they're doing to prune the tree back for you, getting it down to the point where you can maintain it. So when the leaves are off, let's prune that tree back as hard as we can and leaving enough branches that you're still going to get fruit next year. And then when the leaves first come out in the spring, and it's worse when it's a wet year and it's supposed to a dry year, next spring we don't know yet, but get some garden sulfur, spray the leaves as they come out, and a tree that's brought down for you is going to be a lot easier. So garden sulfur, first thing in the spring, you should be able to control it just fine. And I notice a lot of us have the same problem. I have my own pear trees. It's a problem. So I basically pick the leaves off and get them cleaned up, and the pears are fine to eat. No problem at all.
There you go, Michelle. Enjoy. You can enjoy.
Once, sorry.
What's that?
Do I only spray once? Sorry.
No, it depends on the weather. That's a very good question. If we get continuous cool, damp weather, that really it enhances the ability of any type of rust or disease or fungus to be able to grow. So it depends on the weather. Yeah.
Okay. Michelle, thank you very much. And I hope you do get to enjoy a pear soon. Let's head now to Kelowna, and Eve is calling with a question for Brian Minter. Welcome, Eve.
Not Eve, Steve.
Steve. Oh, my apologies. Welcome, Steve.
It's all good. Brian, thank you. Microorganisms in soil, you talked about a couple of weeks ago, beneficial microorganisms, bacteria, blah, blah, blah. Is there a commercial product that you can put on the soil or incorporate in the soil to enhance that, or no?
Yeah, mycorrhiza is one of the favorites right now. Actually, it was funny. A school teacher or a teacher and her students came in looking to add mycorrhiza to the soils in terms of watching a difference in plants, how they're growing the other day. But mycorrhiza, many of the Canadian products we have, like Pro Mix soils and Sunshine Mix, if you look, it says contains mycorrhiza. And so, yeah, but you can buy it separately. You can buy several beneficial bacterias. They're available in garden stores, not all of them, but adding that back into the soil, best thing you could do. It really enhances the thing. Even when we're doing composting, sometimes the bacteria that break it down, you can buy compost enhancers, giving you more bacteria that are more active to be able to break down the compost earlier. So yeah, it's available. Good question. It's not necessarily commercial, it's domestic as well.
Steve, great question. Thank you. And Brian, because I know we're going to start getting emails, can you please spell mycorrhiza so people know what to look for?
No. Okay. I think it's MYCORIZA. MYC. There's no K in there. RIZA.
That should get us pretty close. I did look it up, so it looks like also MYCORRHIZA.
Well done.
If we're well done, Google. If you're looking for it, MYCO will get you there probably. Mycorrhiza. Thank you very much. Great tip on using that as a way to enhance that soil. Yeah, Steve, thank you for the call from Kelowna. Our number again, 604-669-3733, 1-800-825-5950. Oh, let's head to Campbell River now. And Bill is calling us with a question for Brian Mincher. Hi, Bill.
Hi there. Hi, Brian. Thanks for what you do.
Bill.
It's helpful. Love listening to the show. Ultimately, I'm a person who plants my 4 cannabis plants each year, and ultimately I'm running into a problem since I left the Gulf Islands to Campbell River. My garden seems to just produce powdery mildew all the time, no matter how minimal I water at that time of year. I don't get the leaves wet, none of that, but ultimately I keep getting this powdery mildew. Is there some way to condition my garden soil in the off season to alleviate this problem so that I don't have to try and entertain the concept of spraying at the wrong time of year?
Yeah, Bill, really good question.
Yeah.
The answer, in my knowledge, no. There's no way you can enhance the soil. The things that do make a difference, where you plant them, good air circulation, and the optimum sun you can possibly get in your garden. Those are 2 things that are critical in location. And the other thing is there is organic forms of garden sulfur. And I know all of us were, skeptical about using chemicals, but there are organic forms of garden sulfur. I think Safer's the company puts it out. And I would say as soon as they're in the spring, and plant them a little bit later. That's what we're finding with a lot of things we're going to be able to do. Once you get into past mid-May into late May, the weather cycle seems to be changed. It's warmer, it's drier. So later planting, organic sulfur on the plant, and finding the best location. Those are all the key things to be able to try and keep your cannabis clean.
Oh, so interesting. The difference the environment can make, right? Moving from a Gulf Island to Campbell River. Bill, thank you. Good luck to you. Thanks for the question. And Pam is calling us now from Salmon Arm. Hi, Pam. Go ahead to Brian Mincher.
Hello. Thank you for taking my call, Brian. I have a beautiful little bougainvillea plant, which I bought 2 summers ago. And each summer I put it out on the back deck, which it loved and thrived. But time I brought them in, it dropped all its leaves and looks dead. So what am I doing wrong, or is that normal, or what shall I be doing with the little plant to get the winter?
Yeah, Pam, really good question. It is very normal. We have a greenhouse. We bring them in earlier where it's more humid and the leaves stay on longer, but still a lot of them fall off. That's okay. You're getting rid of disease and insects in that way. And the trick, Cam, is to simply take your a little bit of a stem with your fingernail and just a little bit of scraping. And when you see some green, the cambium layer on your bougainvillea, you know the plant is absolutely fine. The thing is not to keep them too wet and not to keep them too dry. Just finding that happy place for them is really good. In a bright window is where they love to be, and keep it just moist. And slowly but surely, once it adapts to the conditions in your home now, as opposed to being outside, you'll see the leaves start to come. And they're a bit tricky, but we've been doing it for years and having great success. Not only that, I love the mandevillas right now. The mandevillas are becoming so popular because they take the heat and dry and they flower like crazy. They too should be inside right now, and they too have the same problem. So, yep, that's all you need to do. Just keep it just moist in a cool window, and I promise you, Pam, those leaves will come back.
Oh, yes. Got to get them back to that previous condition. Thank you so much. Good luck, Pam. That's Pam calling from Salmon Arm. Let me get to an email question here for you. And Barbara writes, asking, how do I get rid of moss in the garden beds near the sea? So that's the only information I have.
Okay.
Near the water.
Really, cool weather, damp weather, dark weather, rain, moss grows.
Yeah.
And it's funny. People are asking me how to get moss right now. Seriously,
Move over
a lot
here.
of that. Okay. Good drainage is to improve the drainage and the tilth of your soil so it's more open and more porous. In other words, when rain comes in quantity, you want the water to get away very quickly. Opening your soil with fine fir bark mulch or fine sawdust, boy, that opens up the soil. And if you have the open porous soil, the problem is minimized dramatically. Lining your soil, it's a thing that helps the soil overall in many different ways. I would put the lime on this time of year to keep your pH up. That's very, very important. But the open tilth and the drainage and the openness of your soil, really, really important. Even working manures like mushroom compost in your soil to open it up. Those are all things that work organically and very, very well to minimize the moss situation.
Yeah, there you go. Lots of tips for you there. Thank you for the question. Again, it's BC Today at cbc.ca. And on the phone, Barbara is joining us from Salmon Arm. Hi, Barbara.
Hello, Mr. Minter. How do
Hi,
I
Barb.
overwinter my geraniums? I've had some people tell me that you strip all the leaves off and have them in soil. I've had others tell me that you bare root them completely, throw them in a box, and mist them occasionally. I need your help, please.
Okay. Well, Barb, you brought up a question where there's more than one right answer because people have been doing it for centuries, all over the world. But what I'd like to do, I don't like to bare root them, and I don't like to take all the leaves off. Basically, what we do, the ones we want to keep, and we've done it already, some of the novelty varieties, we put them in a small container. They need to be root bound in a small container. And basically, you can leave the leaves on, that's fine, or some of the big ones, some are going to fall off anyway as they adjust to being indoors over the wintertime. So cool, keep them as cool as you possibly can, as much light as you get them beside a window, and run geraniums dry. Geraniums love to be dry. They hate being too wet. So just barely moist in a pot right beside a window. And what I love about that, Barb, is suddenly they start to grow and you start getting blooms over the winter and enjoy them. So rather than rip all the leaves off and hang them upside down, I root them all. And most of them work, but I'd rather have a nice plant that looks good that I can enjoy over the winter and then simply transplant out in the garden in the spring. That's what I would do, Barb.
Yeah, sounds great. Barbara, thank you very much for your question. Rob is next in Chilliwack now with a question, I think, about dahlias. Hi, Rob.
Yeah. Hi. Good afternoon, Michelle. Good afternoon, Brian. Quick question,
Hi,
Brian. I dug them out. My dahlias about coming up 2 weeks ago. I have them in cardboard boxes, and I have them in my garden shed, which is uninsulated. My question is, would they be fine in there if I covered them with newspaper, or should I be moving them like into my garage, or if I covered them maybe with like a dry sawdust? Would they be fine in there? Do you think it'll be too cold, or I'm just curious?
Yeah.
Rob, I love your ideas. When it gets really cold, and the problem out in the Eastern Valley here, we can get nailed with very, very, cold winds. If it's possible to put them in insulate an area, like sometimes just household insulation that you can, pick up anywhere at a lumber store or so on. Just take an area. Take a big wooden grate of some sort, put them inside there, and put the insulation all around the outside. That's it. You can put them in dry sawdust. Nothing wrong with that at all. The thing is to keep your tubers dry. That's it. Don't let them get wet. That's why I say never wash them because it takes too long for them to dry out and they'll start to rot. So long as the tubers are dry and you can protect them from the frost however you choose, but you're right, burying them in a protective mulch, bark mulch or sawdust that's dry, but sometimes just putting them in a spot where you can put insulation around and put a thermometer in there so you can check when it gets really cold. That would work fine. They just don't want to freeze, Rob. That's the biggie.
Rob, thank you very much. That just goes to show how timely this topic is, right, Brian? People are really thinking about it. Yeah.
Us too, you and me, Michelle. Right? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Marion is next now in Vancouver. Hi, Marion, go ahead.
Oh, hi. Thanks for taking my call. It's just a comment about the chafer beetles with the animals digging them up all winter. Happened to me years ago, like 15 years ago, and I finally put construction fencing all over the lawn, the orange stuff, for years and years, and it worked like a charm. And then finally my garden company sprays a Cellphone on every year, and you just have to water it in for 20 minutes. And that's fixed the problem. But before I did that, I did nematodes, which didn't work, and construction.
Right.
That's right.
And Marianne, can I ask you, because we actually have an email from someone saying they had a few birds die getting stuck in the wire. Did you not have that problem with that construction netting?
It wasn't wire. It was that plastic construction fencing, the orange stuff.
Yeah, I wonder if that would make a difference.
It's very safe for the animals. No animals ever got stuck in it.
So there's the answer. Marion, thank you for the tip.
Marion, thank you. Our listeners are just the best. No question.
They sure are.
You answered the questions and helped so many people. So thank you.
Yes, and you answered the question that was sent in by Nancy, who had some concerns because they tried wire and ended up sadly having a few birds die, getting stuck in them, wondering about an alternative. So that sounds like a very, very useful alternative and one that works and prevents birds from getting
Michelle,
harmed.
too, there are various types of wire, like poultry wire. I could see that happening, but some of the other wires that are basically a little bit stronger, and it'll be much easier for the birds not to get stuck. So that's a brilliant point, and thank you for bringing it up. It's really appreciate that.
Yeah, Brian, thank you very much. And again, everyone is thinking of this right now and what to do about protecting their plants as things get colder and windier out there. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you in 2 weeks from now. That's Brian Minter, of course, our gardening columnist here on the program. He joined us from Country Garden Limited in Chilliwack, and he'll be back in 2 weeks from now. That is it for our show. I want to thank everyone who works on the program: Rachel Adams, Allison Cole, Zamir Karim, Ali Bitarget, George Baker, Burke Johnson, Greg Kisser, Mel Carter, Bradley Stewart, and Megan Zwick. Our intern has been Joe McHugh.